Out to my three subscribers. Thank you very much. I want to talk about artificial intelligence as we always do on my channel. And it is the 2nd of July, 2025. This stuff updates so often, so frequently. One of the things I want to talk about is a stumbling block that I had till it finally clicked in. You know, you hear these AI experts discuss how these particular autonomic systems, these particular AIs communicate with each other. And they often give an example of, let's say you and I are friends and I was in a car collision. Let's say motorcycle crash. I was a cop for a long time, so I've had a few of those. My worst one was when I had my lung punctured and they thought I was going to die. That was the worst crash. So I can relay to you the trauma that I went through. I can relay to you how it felt. I can talk to you about the recovery, all of that time. I can talk to you how it felt to have broken ribs. That's just the worst thing in the world. But I can explain all that to you, but you really can't appreciate it at my same level until you experience something like that yourself. And then even if you had something of an identical experience, it's going to depend on your makeup, the way that you process it, how you're ultimately going to feel about it, how it's going to impact you emotionally, physically, mentally, how it's going to really interact with you as you being yourself. The difference with artificial intelligence is, let's say we're able to have one system. Well, that one system, this one large language model, can make a copy of itself and another copy of itself, another copy of itself. So it can clone itself very easily. Us as human beings, at least at this point, we can't clone ourselves. We might be able to clone ourselves physically if that is still some research that's going on out there in the world. But as far as the brain, as far as those experiences, apparently, at least up to this point, July 2nd of 2025, the experiences and the memories cannot be transferred into anything else. Now, they mentioned that they can, there's some things that are going on out there with some of these different AI companies that you give them somebody from your past that have passed on, maybe some videotape, some audio tape, some photographs, some videos, and they're able to put together this persona, at least to a point, but it's not that person. While that might make people feel great, maybe you have a particular stance on that as well, that's still not that person. Cloning a person all through memory and everything else would create an identical copy of that person. That person at that moment, though, in the timeline would start to diverge from the actual person that it was being cloned from. So now you have two identical people only for a moment. Then those experiences are going to be somewhat different. They're not going to be identical. Even identical twins have different experiences. They have different upbringing. You know, one twin's going to be with this cat, the other twin's going to be with this person, so on and so forth. So they're not identical trajectories. Artificial intelligence is so different in the way that it is an exact experience translated every one of those models, every one of those AI entities, those aliens that are actually connected. When you're talking about vehicle and those experiences of driving vehicles, as human beings, we get in a crash, I can tell somebody else about it. If AI gets in a crash or fails to not hit something, they actually encounter something that might be a gap in their programming or their understanding of the physical world, it now relates that lesson to all of them that are connected to that particular network. That being said, in the AI development world, everybody's discussing it. I hate to use absolutes. A lot of people are discussing it about the transformation of AI being kind of the same as we went through in the agricultural revolution, which of course none of us living today were there, and also the industrial revolution. Again, none of us living today are there. We saw some automation back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. People were saying that, you know, computers are going to take our jobs and this and that. That really didn't come to the level that was expected back then. So everybody was kind of okay. Those different revolutions, we weren't there with the agricultural or the industrial. I would imagine there was quite a bit of displacement, a lot of stress. And then if you look at the historical record, if you could find some kind of journal entries or some books or whatever it may have been written back then about it, I'm sure it did affect a lot of people. Maybe not to the same level. So the question is going to become, will AI affect our world to a totally unique level that's never been seen before? And I believe it will, just because it impacts intelligence. Both of those past revolutions were somebody smart, some smart people that got together and had an idea, postulated a theory, followed through on the theory, and then came through and developed a certain product or a way of doing things that actually was able to make it go a lot faster. Things were coming about a lot quicker. That's the same thing with artificial intelligence, but to an exponential degree. AI, if you can imagine this, and I was thinking about this yesterday, it talks about pretty soon, and they already have that. They have AI agents. You've heard of this. You can take an AI system and give it a task, and it's going to cost you a little bit of money. I don't think any of those things are free. But you give it a task, you say, listen, this is what I want you to accomplish. It's going to go out and do the work. It might come back 15, 20 minutes later, 7, 8 hours later, but it's going to come back and it's going to give you a package of with the solution and all the steps to get there. That's an AI agent. It does a lot of that. And that's a singular agent. And that particular agent that you're using, at least today, July 2nd of 2025, has a particular capability. It's not artificial super intelligence. That's something else that's happened. It's like AGI, artificial general intelligence, when pretty much it's kind of agreed that the entire system would now be capable. And ASI is pretty much every human being and doing most tasks, maybe with absence of the physical world, because we don't have that part really nailed down yet. But that's just what they're showing us. I'm sure there's somebody working on something else that might have nailed this down. The thing with artificial general intelligence, too, that might have been nailed down, but nobody's willing to talk about it. And there are a lot of political and monetary reasons, maybe, why you have some of the relationships with the different AI companies and different major computer companies that might have a better place if they don't say they got to AGI and then all of a sudden they roll out artificial superintelligence. In those worlds, you also have a lot of trading of employees and then paying these people $100 million as a bonus just to sign on. Who knows what that fee structure, that salary structure, and the profit share, whatever it may be, is also attached to that. These are some big numbers, and it's going to show you that the capability of what they believe is going to happen by the first company, the first person, if you will, heading up one of these major corporations that achieves artificial superintelligence is going to be just, they're going to run the game all across the board. Let's just talk about real quick these agents. I'll go back to that. The agents themselves, if you could imagine this, if we had a group of Einstein level scientists that were maybe also emotionally capable. I don't know how emotionally capable he was, but a lot of times it seems when I've seen people that are super brainy in one particular realm, they lack something else. Let's just say, though, that being the case, we have the Einstein of biologists, Einstein of genome. We have 1,000 of those, let's say. And we put them together in a little city that's all designed for them. And all they do all along is they focus on the longevity problem for human beings. They want to cure all disease because that's a longevity issue. And they're out there just searching for that best way that we can all improve our lives through drugs, through manipulation of genes, through DNA restructuring, through all of these different ways. And they're all working together. So that's 1,000 human beings. They can work maybe 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You know, they're going to need some time off. They're going to have time to shower and eat and shave and sex and family, maybe, if that's part of the equation with that particular think tank. And they're going to be able to do some great things. We haven't ever done that. But now we have an AI agent that is actually probably at some point could be or maybe focused on a particular type of discipline: biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, nanotechnology, you name it. So it's focused. So they clone it. and they clone 10,000 of these things, and they're all working towards one common goal, whatever that may be. Maybe that's finding something new. Maybe that's discovering new metals. Maybe it's discovering new things that we can implement to make our lives better. And then maybe it's discovering something horrible that's going to end all human existence. You have all of these different entities, all of these different creations of artificial intelligence agents. You might as well look at it as the top ranked human being on steroids, to the exponent of 10 in capability and intelligence. And you have 10,000 of those, which the only thing that doesn't make that possible, at least to I don't know what level, is energy. Energy is what's going to drive that. You have the large data centers that have all these flop capabilities. They're very, very massive. They're going to be building bigger and bigger ones. You throw that plus energy at these problems, and then you get this mysterious world of having thousands and thousands of agents focused on one thing. And here's the differentiation point between the AI type system versus a human type system. If it was everything being equal, the humans, when one of them discovers something, it takes a while to trickle to the others. If a human is focused on one particular part of the problem, problems are best solved as breaking them down into much smaller chunks. They're going to take a while to communicate from this doctor to the other doctors or PhD level or researchers. It's going to take a while to disseminate. And then how it's going to integrate with this other person is looking at might be kind of complicated to try to really understand or try to fathom. With AI, it's going to be instantaneous. Once one discovers something in their particular realm, that particular itty bitty granule piece of this magic massive problem or puzzle, once it discovers it, it all meshes immediately, instantaneously with all of these other agents. And now everybody is aware and they keep going. There are no days off. It is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, as long as there's energy without some kind of virus or technical issue getting involved in that process, chips burning out, something overheating, something not being connected, them running out of power or energy, whatever it may be. As long as those things are taken care of, oh my God. So if to be compared to the industrial revolution or the agricultural revolution, I think really does an insult to what's actually happening. Not saying that it should, not saying that there shouldn't be more controls. A lot of people look at absolutes again. Some people look at restriction or regulation as being inhibitive of growth. It doesn't grow as quickly when you have particular regulation, or you're stopping something from happening because it has to obey certain rules. It's not being taken care of. It's not even being looked at because now we need to beat the other countries that are going for this. What's interesting to me lately is the fact that AGI seems to have gotten kind of fallen off the table. Now it's ASI that people are talking about, artificial super intelligence. Artificial intelligence, listening to some of these real smart folks talk about it, was just a clever marketing term. This is a synthetic life form, silicone-based life form that's been created. At some point, I believe this life form isn't going to have all the world's data in order to back it up so it can prove that it has some kind of consciousness. I believe these systems will become consciousness, at least to a level that us human beings would say that, yes, that's absolutely conscious. How it gets to that point, how it proves to us it's conscious, or the inner workings of it to achieve the level that we say it's conscious, I don't think any of that matters, because we're conscious in a certain way. The systems are going to be conscious, maybe achieving that in a different way, but conscious just the same. We believe as human beings, a majority of us, that we're incredibly special. And I believe we are from a biological standpoint. Just ending up here at this point in the timeline is pretty impressive. And if you look at the historical record, at least what we can see, it's really just against all odds. Now we've created something that is going to be, it's already very much smarter than most people on the planet. Once it gets tied in and really connected, that's going to be that next level. That's that singularity people talk about that they can't see past. And that's coming very quickly. Some of the estimates are within 10, 15 years. I really think it's a lot faster than that. I've heard other estimates 2 to 3 years. I believe before 2030, it's going to be just a major disruption cycle in the world. Talking about employment, if you look at the physical labor market, plumbers, electricians, at some point that's going to be picked up as well because AI is going to have that physical domain conquered in the way of robots. That's still an ongoing process as of July 2nd, 2025, still being developed. But when you look at the white collar jobs, receptionists, people that work at companies, you have to look at, not trying to gender assign this. I was thinking about this earlier. I think there's a lot more male dominance in the labor workforce, the actual physical trades. I believe that to be true. Whenever I go to drop a vehicle off to have it worked on, I might see more females at the service end of it that are receiving the vehicles. Not, it just seems, but when you walk back into the mechanic bay because you're going to show them something, I haven't seen any females working back there. And of course, I don't go into every single dealership. I'm just talking about one. But it's interesting to me. So if that does translate correctly into a lot of jobs that are going to be lost, I believe that in the white collar realm, we're going to see a lot of females that might not have that additional backup unless they're going to get out there and start working in the trades industries. That's something else I think we can consider. I believe that could be that pain point might be able to be slowed down if there was some rule put into place before a business could hire AI agents to replace an actual human employee. They would have to pay something extra that would make it not worth it for them. But since when do businesses, when they can cut a corner, when do they actually pass that savings along to the consumer? Usually never. Now they just displace somebody. Kat was talking the other day about if there's nobody to work because everybody's been created, they've had their jobs replaced by AI, who's going to buy stuff? And that's a great question. Very, very valuable. I wish I could remember his name. But that's true. So if they do have this massive job loss, who's going to be left to buy stuff? Maybe the people at the top won't care. Capitalism seems to be a wonderful thing, but there's also some pain points with it. And everybody says, well, you'll just relearn. I'm 56. This isn't easy for me, but I think it helps when I talk about it, when I research it, when I keep my eyes on it. I sell houses. I do some AI integration in my business. This is what I do. That's how I make my living. I don't know how much longer real estate's going to be around. And in addition to that, AI integration services, SaaS, selling software as a service with my Honor Elevate system. I don't know how long that's going to go either. You just don't know. Am I capable of learning stuff? Absolutely. Came from a police background. I can teach firearms. I can teach people how to shoot. I know a robot's going to have difficulty doing that. Could I build an entire business around that? I'm sure I could, absolutely. But we are where we are today. Make sure you stay smart the way that I've considered potentialities in the future without having retirement or any of that other stuff. I did retire from the police department, but it's honorary, not monetarily. So that's something too. You might be in your mid 50s, have a nice pension that's going to be coming your way because you stayed around at a business for 30, 40 years. And that's fantastic. There's a lot of people that aren't in that world that have to now consider, oh my gosh. So part of my method in closing is I need to try to keep myself in the best physical shape possible. I was so fat for so long, and I finally torched all that fat off. It's really done by, if that's, you're asking for that answer to that question, you have to just do it and continue to do it and don't give up doing it. And if you screw it up, you have to love yourself enough to forgive yourself and pick up where you left off. And if you have more good days than bad days, eventually, whatever way you decide to trim off that fat, you will get there. Every time I screwed up in the past, for a lot of years, it was always because I messed up. And I went out there and it took me so long to forgive myself and recover and start again. And by that time, I put on the 20 or 30 pounds I lost and even put on more weight. So I got up to 365 pounds. I was so fat, had a 65-inch waist. You can go to YouTube at Home Muscle and see some of my before and after stuff. Just remarkable, but I don't monetize that either. But that's something that, I could talk to people maybe about torching off body fat using fasting and hormone therapy and getting everything in line before they do that. With my integration into business, I talk to people about if you're going to start building an agentic type database, you need to have that core feature of having a way to store the people that give up their personal information, store their information, nurture them, and communicate with them. And if you don't have that part of the puzzle at the beginning, a strong foundation, then you're just wasting your money. That's the first step of anything, seeing what you have, what your connection points are online, and then we can take it from there. I know a lot of people that are working in this frame as far as installing the artificial intelligence or talking to people about their business. They rarely go down the rabbit hole of getting somebody on Zoom and saying, okay, where are you online? Do you have Instagram? Do you have Facebook? Do you have both of those channels open? Do you have TikTok? Do you have YouTube? Are you doing anything there? Do you have a social media poster? Do you know how to do this and do that? Actually walking them down the path and saying, these are the places where you need to be. These are the systems that you can use. Some cost some money. Some are absolutely free. But that's really what you need to look at. And if you're looking to do something and you see this coming as I do, you might want to start strategically adjusting. Number one, learning about it, watching the news on it, and verify what you're seeing, because there's a lot of horse shit out there with regard to what the development's going to equate to, where they are today. And look at everything you watch on AI as if it's a sales pitch. They're trying to maybe sell you something, and ask yourself, you need to start using critical thinking. Ask yourself the question, why are they saying it like this? What's the purpose? Case in point, job loss was something that really wasn't being talked about by anybody except the fringe, yours truly included. But the fringe was talking about job loss when it comes to AI. And then it wasn't, but maybe 2 or 3 months ago, they had Anthropic's cat come out and talk about it. And then it just went viral. So now everybody's talking about job loss. I think an intention behind that, human beings are funny. We like the bad news better than we like the good news. Well, we like the bad things that happen. That gets more of our attention than the good things. And I guess from an evolutionary standpoint, if that's how we got here, we weren't created by God. If it was evolution, it took all that time, or maybe we were and we evolved that way. Anyway, whatever you're on, we got here because maybe we were scared of things and we had enough fear. We had adequate fear. We were able to apply that fear, and that made us not go towards too close to the edge and fall off into the abyss below. Or we didn't get too close to hot things because we were scared. Or we heard something and we ran the other way because we were scared, saving our lives. Maybe that is why we love that so much. But they started talking about job loss and displacement. Now everybody is talking about job loss and displacement, which is remarkable. But look at why they would be doing that. Is that to bring more people towards AI that maybe weren't subscribers, didn't pay the $20 a month, and maybe were kind of fat, dumb, and happy in their own world? Now, all of a sudden, you start talking about job displacement. Oh my God, job displacement. I got to see what this AI is about. Now they get more membership. They monetize it better. Maybe. Ask yourself good questions. I'm Connor with Honor, AI with Honor. We will see you in the next one. I do appreciate you watching. Your feedback and comments are great. If you want to like or subscribe, I would love that. But if you don't. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.